come from DFC.
No, para mujeres logo is red.
Hey everyone, we're going to give everyone a couple of minutes to join. In the meantime, feel free to start filling out our Mentimeter survey. There are going to be 2 questions in there about where you're based. The first one is a pin the tail on a donkey type of situation that's kind of hard on a phone, so feel free to skip that one and fill out the second one.
It was only in the background.
All right, I think we can go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody to Bridging the Gap, Advancing Gender Smart Finance in Latin America, Africa, and Asia. We're really excited that you're joining us here at the end of the day. Thank you for sticking around. One of the main goals of this session is really to have an interactive discussion about how we can all better support financial institutions in achieving their gender goals. And so in order to do that, we're going to start by trying to understand who's in the room a little bit. So we have a fun little Mentimeter survey here. There's a QR code that you can scan with your phone. If that doesn't work, you can type in the link on this slide. And we will hopefully get to understand who all is in the room and what you want to learn about so we can really tailor this conversation. I am Bree Lasoya Vora. I'm the head of impact measurement and management for Sweef Capital. And I am joined here today, and I'll allow them to introduce themselves a little bit further as they present their slides. I have Laura Fisher-Colbury, who is from Aquilo, Tomas Gonzalez Berger, who is from ProMujer, Alexa Foglia, representing Banco Natura, and Abhishek Gupta, representing Caspian Debt. So to get started, let's see, where are you based? Raise your hand if you responded to the survey so I can know if it's broken or not. All right, so people responded, it's just not updating right away. Let's see if maybe I can do that over here. Where are you based? All right, so I'm saying things. All right, it looks like we have a high Geneva cohort, but maybe raise your hand, Geneva. All right. Argentina, nice. Los Angeles, very nice. Switzerland, Geneva folks. All right, and Stockholm, very nice. Oh, Bern, anybody? All right, welcome.
London.
All right. Next question. Where does your organization operate? This can be a region. If it's global, feel free to say global. All right. Global, emerging markets. Oh, see, now it's working. All right. It's taking a little bit longer to load over here than it is on my phone. Latin America, Asia, Africa. Okay, there we go. Now you're seeing what I'm saying. Great. Well, welcome, and glad that you're here because hopefully this conversation will be super relevant to you. Got a couple more coming in. Humanitarian crises. Okay, nice. Not nice, but great that you're doing that work. Oh. All right, let's go to the next slide. And so what type of organization are you representing today? I tried to cover most of the types that I noticed had registered, but if you're other, click other. I'm trying to advance and it's not letting me. Right over here. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Alrighty. So we've got a few academic institutions, great. A few NGOs, finance industry, a couple of others. Do any of the others want to speak up and let us know what type of organization you're representing?
We're a foundation.
Okay, great. Oh, I didn't include foundations. Okay, nice. All right. Glad we have several academic institutions here. We will get into our case study, and I hope you'll find it interesting. All right. Next slide, please, till we figure this out. Last question, rate your level of expertise. Again, this is a judgment-free zone. We're just trying to figure out how we're going to tailor this conversation in terms of, are you brand new to gender? Are you an expert? You know, depending on where the room is at, we'll adjust accordingly. All right, a couple of 1.0s, 1.4s. All right, so this is great. We'll introduce some of the basic gender concepts then in terms of how we designed this project. Let a couple more responses come in before I move on. All right, I think we can go to the next slide. All right. Great. So as I mentioned, today we're going to be getting into a case study of a project that everyone on the stage has worked on very hard over the past year or so. This project is financed by the United States Development Finance Corporation, or DFC. They are the DFI of the United States, and it really started because they made a commitment to, alongside the 2X initiative, really commit to investing in women and investing in clients that support women. And so they made a very sort of ambitious commitment of how they're going to honor that initial agreement. And one of the things they realized very quickly is that in order to reach that agreement, they needed to work with existing clients, and those clients often needed support in the form of technical assistance for really closing the gender gap, being more gender inclusive. And so for that, they came to this consortium of 3 partners, and I will explain a little bit about what each of the partners does. ProMujer, represented by Tomas here in the middle, operates in Latin America. They're an NGO that focuses on financial inclusion. They've done this for
34 years.
34 years, and so they were a logical choice, especially given the DFC's portfolio in Latin America. Sweef Capital is the organization that I'm representing. As I mentioned, I'm the head of impact measurement and management for Sweef Capital, and we are an impact investor headquartered in Asia that's focused on women's economic empowerment. And so it might seem like a bit of an odd fit for this project for an impact investor, but actually it made a lot of sense for us, not only because of our background in inclusive finance, but because we have a tool called the Gender ROI, which is a gender inclusion impact measurement and management tool that Laura will go into more detail on here in a minute, but it looks at gender across 3 pillars of resilience, opportunity, and inclusion, hence the ROI. It is a free and completely open source tool, so as Laura will show us, anyone in this room can access it and use it to assess their company or their organization. And it kind of served initially as the diagnostic tool for this program, and we'll talk a little bit about how we adapted it to better meet the needs of our clients. And then Aquilo is the host of this technology tool. So Laura is representing Aquilo, and I will give it over to her soon to talk about how that tool works. So to talk a little bit about the way the project works, basically DFC identifies their clients that they think will be a good fit for the project, either because they are very new in their gender journey and need support, or in a case that you'll hear about a little bit later, because they're pretty advanced in their gender journey and just need help kind of getting over those sort of more advanced hurdles. Once they introduce the consortium to the financial institutions, we meet with them. We try to understand their goals and map those with our goals. And then, if the financial institution is interested, we move forward. Tomas will talk in a little bit about how we divide that up geographically. And then once a financial institution signs that initial sort of letter of commitment, the next step is to do a gender diagnostic. Again, for both of the financial institutions on the stage, we use the gender ROI as a diagnostic tool to really comprehensively look across 24 indicators how they were doing when it comes to gender inclusion. So that really enabled us to not only pinpoint, where they were in the process and where they could go, but also helped us sort of align that with how they viewed themselves when it came to gender. Once that diagnostic was complete, we work with them to sort of compromise between what we see as a priority and what they see as a priority, meet somewhere in the middle, and we co-create this gender action plan that we then implement with the partners on the stage, either firsthand in the case of Sweef Capital or ProMujer if they have that relevant experience, or we will engage our partners to kind of assist with that capacity development work. Monitoring, evaluation, and learning, which I am responsible for on the project, happens throughout. It's part of the reason we're here. Again, we think it's really important to share some of the really interesting insights that have come out of this project. And we have some publications that I'll share links to, but also we have a lot more coming out over the next few months, so please keep an eye out. So with that, Laura, do you want to talk a little bit about Aquilo?
All right. Welcome, everyone, also from my side. I'm Laura Fischer-Colbury. I'm the Director of Operations at Aquilo. Most of you probably don't know Aquilo. We're a small company, but we're a data analytics as a service provider dedicated to advancing gender equality by leveraging data, technology, and AI. So it's really our mission to contribute to achieving systems-level change to advance gender equality. And we have done that by launching an innovative platform that hosts a variety of tools and products that on the one hand help any type of entity, be it a humanitarian or international development organization, an investor, or just an organization or entity of any size, to get their hands on country and sector-specific data, for example. So we're the first automated gender analysis tool that exists in the world, and that helps investors, but also companies to just understand in which context they're operating. We are also working with 2X Global and working on contributing to the Gender Lens investing ecosystem. We have built the 2X Challenge and the 2X certification platform into the Aquilo platform. So if you're ever interested in any of these two things, head on over to Aquilo and check it out. But last but not least, as Brianna mentioned, we have also partnered with Sweef Capital to digitize the gender ROI tool on our platform. To make it really easy, have a tool that is online instead of working with papers or Excel files. So this is where we're coming from. It's really great to be also on this project together with the other consortium partners to really support the process and make, as Brianna pointed out, the gender diagnostic just really quick, easy, save time and save cost in collecting the data and analyzing the data, and then having as a result more time and finances and resources to be put into focusing on insights, lessons learned, and really taking action. So apologies for the graphics here, but they're supposed to look nicer. But so let's move on just to give you a short idea of what the gender ROI looks like on our platform. So it's basically an online survey tool. As Brianna mentioned, it contains different survey modules across dimensions that are workforce, leadership, value chain, and society. So within each of these dimensions, you can dive really deep and take surveys and assess, for example, the leadership when it comes to women and what it looks like, but also gender-responsive procurement, GBVH, a broad variety of topics when it comes to gender equality. It takes usually between, depending on how prepared you are, let's say 10 minutes to up to 1 hour to do one survey module. It really also depends on how advanced you are already when it comes to gender equality. As I mentioned, it's really quick. The data gets entered into the platform, and the positive thing is that you get immediate results. So not only do you see at the end of taking the survey what is your gender ROI score, which is a score on a scale from 0 to 5, pointing out where you are in your gender journey. But also the platform offers you the analytics that goes with your survey results. Especially for this project, since we were working with financial institutions, we have developed a separate survey module that assesses the gender lens in financial processes and products and services, which can only be taken by financial institutions and funds. So this is a special add-on that was especially created for this project as well. But as I mentioned, so the benefit is not only of quickly collecting data, but it's also getting instant analysis. So you save the time of having a human go and analyze all of the data entered. It happens immediately on the platform. So we're also trying to avoid the fatigue of taking surveys. As I said, you get this so-called spider chart, which helps you understand where you are on your gender journey across these 24 dimensions that form the gender ROI score. If you were to, for example, repeat and see your progress over time, you can see that it would show as a different line. What is also interesting is that we pull in the so-called Jesse contextual score. So as I mentioned before, we have built this automated gender analysis tool that provides country and sector-specific contextual information. And that helps you to really understand in the sector and in the country that you operate, your result and the outcome of the gender ROI. Where does this leave you with your environment in that you operate? And last but not least, and I think that's also the whole point of having such tools, is to generate benchmarks. So the more institutions and entities taking the assessment, the more data we can collect and really understand where each of these different types of entities, be it a financial institution or a company or a startup, where do they stand with regards to these 24 dimensions, and you can benchmark and see where you stand compared to the rest of the crowd. On the next slide, I'm just showing you also that basically, one of the benefits of the tool is the immediate results. It's not only the spider chart, but in any of the 24 dimensions that are available, you can do a deep dive. So in any of the topics, be it calculations and like quantitative indicators, like here, the senior managers who are women, you get graphs and charts showing you your data and your information. You can use that to easily share with your investors, for example. But then also on the lower chart, you can just see where you rank with the dimensions compared to the Jesse contextual score. And last but not least, and I think that's probably the most important thing to mention here, is that the tool was built, yes, on the one side to collect data, to analyze data, but then to create something that lets you easily move towards action and impact. So based on the results of your gender ROI score, we're pulling out the areas where you have a lower score, which indicates a gender gap in any of these 24 topics. And we have a very big database of basically actions and resources and tools that can be used to advance in these areas. So what we do is we automatically match your score in any of the areas where you, let's underperform is mean, but where you have a lower score, to possible actions that can be taken. And this is really then the starting point of your gender journey, to see where are the gaps, but then also have the tools to see what can I do to improve in these areas. And these are the automated action plans that have then been used by our TA service providers to really go and work with the financial institutions to identify the gaps, see what are the possible actions that can be taken, do they make sense in a country context, and then get started with the work. That's it from my side. So if that was interesting to you, I would highly encourage you to go over to app.aquilo.io. You can create an account. It's totally for free. And if you're curious to find out what your gender ROI score is for your entity or also for your portfolio companies, I encourage you to get started today and find out. And with that, I hand over to Thomas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura, for the introduction. Actually, the gender ROI is one of our starting points when starting the TA process with the AFIs with which we are working. The idea now is to, here we are. To tell you a little bit more about the process, how we engage with the FIs, how we go through the gender ROI as Laura was explaining, and how we move towards like from the score of the gender ROI towards the action plan, and from there to the TA implementation process. As Bri was saying before, the idea, like the process starts when DFC puts us in contact with the FIs, and from that starting point, we start what we call like the engagement process. These initial conversations with the FIs, here we have two excellent examples, to understand how they're doing, which are their perceptions regarding the integration of the gender perspective, which are those pain points that they see within their institution, and from that moment onwards, how they envision working with us together. Once we get that, we move from that engagement phase, as we were explaining before, we go through the gender ROI in the Equilo platform. We get to know which are those areas of improvement through the score that is that we know through the platform. And from that moment onwards, we co-create with the gender action plan that Laura was saying, and the inputs that we receive from the DFI, from the organization, the action plan that they will be going to implement during the technical assistance program. Why? I mean, why do we see? What do we say? Sorry, co-created action plan. That's because there are many things that can be done in terms of gender integration and it's a conversation and dialogue between the DFI and the score that we collected. That's the starting point from which we start designing which is going to be that roadmap, and from where we're going to start working with these FIs. As Bri was naming at the beginning, this is the geographic footprint for the project so far. We have 4 financial institutions in Latin America, 1 in South Africa and 1 in India. Caspian is here with us, so you will hear from Caspian in a few minutes. US Plus is not here this time, but probably will join us in future opportunities. And in Latin America, we have been working with Bien para Bien in Mexico, Credit Q in El Salvador, Pro Banco in Ecuador, and here we have also Banco Atlántida in Honduras. I mean, from some you will hear more from straight from the FIs, but it's very interesting the process that we go with them, because it's very much a tailored approach, no? Understanding which are their needs, which are their demands, which is the culture of the organization, which are the local complexities and difficulties that they might face when trying to incorporate a gender lens, not only when developing products or services, but also when working internally in the organization. We know in facts from the type of DA that we have been developing with DFIs in the past 2 years, that building up the capacity internally and getting their teams to understand why it's important to incorporate this gender lens is key. So that's where usually we start, no? With a few trainings to understand why it's important, like training the leadership teams, training the general staff, in some aspects such as inclusive leadership, gender-based violence prevention, safe workspace, and more, then moving towards the financial and products and services. But I'm not going to take more time from you. I'm going to pass the floor to Alexa, that she's going to be speaking a little bit more about the process with Banco Atlántida.
Thank you very much. Can I have the control, please? Yes. So, hello. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. My name is Alexa Foglia. I am the SME VP for Banco Atlántida. We're in a bank based in Honduras, right smack in the Central America. We are smack in the center of Central America, and we're also part of a regional financial group. We are committed to the gender ROI process, and basically we wanted to share our partnership with these great fellow panelists with you. So this is a little bit about our footprint. We started in 1913, so it's a little bit older than most people here in the room with a bank, but now we've developed into a financial group. And we have exported Honduras, and our latest purchase was a 40% participation in a Spanish bank. So we're already in Europe, and we have a full service financial products for our clients from A to Z, like we say in Honduras. So a little bit about the timeline that we have with our partnership. We launched an internal program called Aliadas Atlántida, or Atlántida Allies, before all this got started. And then in 2024, we signed off with DFC, and DFC came in to suggest ProMujer in order for us to accompany the finance that we were getting, not only with lending facilities for our customers, but for us to truly make an impact with both financial and non-financial products and get on our correct way to gender-focused lending and non-lending products. So ProMujer, why ProMujer? Because ProMujer understands the market, because ProMujer has already implemented certain products and financial solutions and TA-ships in different countries. So our first meetings was basically with the internal teams. They have guided us through the process with an orderly, detailed diagnostic through Equilo. Thank you very much. And it has been very eye-opening. We are still in the middle of our journey and have a lot of work to do in 2025, so looking forward to it. And also, the assessment, I think, was important for us to have an objective view of what we are doing by a third party. And then we move forward in 2024 to start rolling out the process. And how do we roll out the process? Having different engagements with both internal and external parties, including clients and non-clients, in order for our diagnostics to truly represent where we are in the process and, most importantly, where we need to go. So I want to tell you a little bit about where we were before. We thought we were on the right track. We already had a program. We did not start off in 0%. Our program includes trainings on a variety of topics, consultings. We have different partners that we've helped our women entrepreneurs. We have not only financial, but non-financial solutions. Part of our financial group includes supermarkets, so we're able to provide sales spaces for our women entrepreneurs as well. And this is a little bit about our achievements so far without having gone through the process. So hold us to it when we meet next year, how different this slide is going to look. We've helped 34,000 women with a variety of financial services. 4,700 women have received technical assistance, and we've delivered 600 loans. And our success story, which includes Nora Valle, she's an exporter of shrimp. She started out selling in the market. And why did she become a woman entrepreneur? Because she did not do very well with her partners. She had kids to feed, and she was a hardworking woman, and she represents the story of a lot of women in my country and our region. So basically where Honduras is at right now, women only receive 40.7% of the loans, which is a little bit about what we've talked about earlier. The bank accounts, men hold 48.6% of bank accounts, and financial income Men earn 37.2% more than women. So just to lay out where we are. Then this is a picture of our CEO signing with DFC, the picture where it all got started. So then when Equilo comes into the picture, it's the worst comment that you want to hear from a partner. The words, "let's talk." So we need to talk in this case. So for us, it was eye-opening. Like you see, we thought we were doing a very good job. Our board, our senior management was already committed to gender lens. We had put in action our program, but we are far behind where we need to be. So I think from what we found out is not what we think we are, and that is why we need an objective view. So that is one of my suggestions, is for you to look for an independent partner, like the partnership with Sweef, like the partnership with ProMujer, and look for DFIs or financial institutions that have your back in mind and not only are a lending partner, but want to ensure that you are more than a lending institution. And I think that that's where we are now. We have a lot of good things, but still we have to work on most. So Brianna, Laura, Tomas are going to hold me to it, and now my new friend Abhishek as well. So we have a lot of work to do. So here's a little bit about market research in the results of entrepreneurs and women that the ProMujer study dealt. Account volumes also grow in the percentage terms above those of men, reaching 42% of the segment's account portfolio. In loans, they represent 23% total amount, but only 13% share of commercial loan value. The growth of savings around women's SME is double than men's, and current accounts represent 31%, and in credit cards, they lead with a percentage of growth in 117%. So there is a market. There is a smart reason for doing this. It is not social responsibility. It is not gender washing by far. We can help and change our society as a whole, and we can also do good business. And women are better payers. So just a little commercial. So this is a little bit about our next steps, the work that we look forward to in 2025. We're conducting a workshop with our employees. I believe that culturally, if we don't believe in it, we can't sell it. It needs to be part of our culture. It needs to be embedded. Maybe it starts off top down, but it needs to continue bottom up. We have to develop a comprehensive value offer recommendations with the 2X Women's Initiative. There are trillions of dollars out there in the market for all of us to join in. We have to create inclusion policies from the way we talk, from the way we receive, from the way we create products. We have to have continued support from ProMujer. One of the most important things that we've been discussing a lot is the execution. It can look good on paper, the studies can look good, but if we're not measure it and we don't execute, then we failed. And we want to replicate what we're doing in Honduras for the rest of the financial companies in the world where we are investing. So it can. And also, I think we as a bank and the biggest financial group in the country, we have to lead by example, not only with our banks that we work with, not only with the Banking Association, but also with our regulators. So thank you very much. And these are a few pictures I wanted to share. And your top, I believe, right, I wanted to share that picture because it's our CEO buying in one of our sales spaces yesterday. So I'm holding him to it as well. Thank you very much. I'm going to pass it on to Abhishek.
Thank you, Alexa. I guess it's going to be difficult for me to speak after this, but I'll try. So I represent Caspian Debt. I'm the CEO and Managing Director of Caspian Debt. We are an Indian impact lending firm. We provide venture debt to professionally managed companies. So what that essentially means is that we provide debt, flexible, collateral-free debt to startups, social enterprises, and financial institutions in India. And these the debt that we provide is of an average ticket size of about $500,000, and it could go all the way up to $2.5 million. So we're talking about companies very early in their life cycle, and companies that will not be able to get access to debt from traditional sources like banks because they don't have enough track record, and more importantly, they may not have mortgage collateral to offer, which is a typical requirement for the size of loans that we do. But these are companies that are innovating in their products and service deliveries. They operate across a wide variety of supply chains, right from food and agribusiness, clean technologies, healthcare, water and sanitation. So all types of businesses that have some positive impact on the society or the environment. But because they are bringing in innovative models, because they do not have enough track record, because they do not have collateral, traditional lenders do not fund them. But a lot of them have the ability to raise equity. I mean, a lot of them would have raised venture capital equity. And as you know, if you raise a lot of equity, venture capital equity, the dilution or the ownership in the business goes down dramatically for the entrepreneur. So by the time the business is large, the entrepreneur actually owns very little of the company, and they don't get the financial benefit as a result. So by providing debt to such companies, which are designed to grow, we enable entrepreneurs to build a more balanced business where they can have control of the decision making, they can earn better long-term returns, financial returns from whatever effort they put in. The last 11 years, we would have funded close to about 260 companies across all the sectors that I mentioned. But so while we do everything with an impact lens, a few years ago, we started adopting the gender and climate as two horizontal lenses that we wanted to use for our entire portfolio. And the way we got started, the background to how we got involved with this project is that, so DFC, US DFC happens to be one of our key investors, key lenders. Over the past, for about 3 or 4 years, we made we took a number of initiatives to implement gender lens in our operations. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. But DFC became aware of that. Separately, we got recognized as a 2X flagship fund for whatever initiatives, commitments we had made and whatever initiatives we had taken. And DFC recommended the consortium to us, saying that you are doing a lot of things, but it's not structured, and probably you don't really know the value of what you are doing. So it's probably, it will be helpful if you take the help of this consortium to figure out whether you're doing well or where are the areas that you can improve. So that's how it started. And when we started working with them, the first thing that they did was run the gender ROI tool. And we were quite tensed about the results, but luckily we got a 3.92 on that scale. So we were very happy. But it also brought out a number of smaller areas where we did not have enough, where we had not done enough. I mean, we are talking about a situation where we had worked on it for a few years, and yet there were a bunch of areas that we did not have much to talk about. One area which was completely not there was applying gender lens in procurement. So you might think, as a financial services organization, what is procurement? What do you need to procure? There are, for example, contractors or vendors that we have, or service providers that we have in terms, for example, in technology, legal service providers, and so on. We somehow didn't realize that we could apply gender lens to that. This process helped us, by being a part of this program, we were able to, do something in that area. The other issue was, while we had an unwritten understanding that as an organization, the human capital of the organization has to have a good balanced blend of women, we were always fluctuating between 30 and 40% of women in the team. There were no structured policies that could make it easier for, in terms of performance management or feedback, career growth, and giving managerial responsibilities to women. That was another area that was identified as a gap. The other area was that while we had done a lot of things, we did not have like a structured program making the entire team aware of the importance of applying gender lens in the investment process. It was just the passion of a few of us who wanted to implement that, but we didn't have a structured program. So these three were, broad areas of opportunity. And there were several other things that we also did work on. Now, what are the things that we worked on? We took the help of the consortium to essentially guide us on improving our lending practices. So we had done a bunch of things around how to make the process more suitable for women entrepreneurs to borrow from us, but we were able to do carry out a number of changes in our process that helped us, and I'm going to talk about that helped us make our process more gender smart. The other thing was that we wanted our portfolio companies to adopt, become gender smart. But every time we got a pushback that, how do you do it? Who will make the policies? Can you give us some ideas on what are the best practices? By undergoing this program, at the end of the program, we were given a toolkit. Now we had a bunch of templates, a few, sets of best practice examples that we shared with our portfolio companies whenever it's out there on our website. We've sent it to all our portfolio companies, and anytime somebody comes and asks us, what do? We say, yes, this is a starting point. Please go ahead. If you need more inputs, come to us. We'll tell you what we have done. The other thing that happened was in terms of all our policy documents and while we were doing a lot of gender smart initiatives, we had not documented, a lot of things like flexible work policies, a lot of things like how the performance management should be, or the career path planning should be done to make it easier for, make it balanced, equal for both men and women to be considered at the same level. How do we modify the job descriptions that we put out to make sure that we are not discouraging women from applying? How do you make those changes? What we achieved as a result of all of this is that we had made commitments of making sure that at least 30% of the funding that we do goes to companies that are 2x qualified. So they meet the criteria of the 2x initiative. We were finding it quite difficult to get it done, but I think one of the key, I would say, achievements is that we have now consistently been able to achieve those targeted numbers. In fact, last year, 50% of the funding had gone to, a little more than 50% of the funding had gone to 2x qualified companies. We, in a way, in the Indian market, we have demonstrated that as an investment firm, implementing gender smart practices could be done not as a side project, but as a core part of the operation. So a lot of organizations in India are now, we've kind of told them that this is how you have to do it. So there is an example that people can take, at least in the Indian market, on how or what they should be doing. We've done gender-focused capacity building for our portfolio companies. We did workshops, we did focused discussions with at least one portfolio company separately. Now, because the entire team of ours, the entire investment team is trained, they are having these conversations when they go on a due diligence visit or credit evaluation visit to the portfolio companies or when they do the monitoring. Our workplace diversity has improved significantly. For the last several quarters now, more than 50% of the team is women. In fact, the investments team, the client-facing team, where you see least women as far as corporate banking or venture lending is concerned, we have majority women. 40% of our credit committee is women. 40% of our managerial team is women. So, I mean, overall, these are the things that, I mean, in a way is a learning, but this is difficult to do. But what we realized is, and this is the feedback that I have got, not that something that I've realized on my own, is that for measures or initiatives like this, at least at the beginning, you need to push from the top. So I had the luxury of another colleague of mine who also had a lot of experience and a lot of passion in this space, named Ragini, who wanted to push us towards working in this area. So from a senior leadership perspective, I think initiatives like this, at least in the beginning, need a lot of buy-in so that the rest of the organization also agrees and kind of lines up. Training has to be done to get the rest of the organization in line because it's like that story of blind men and the elephant. Everybody has a different perception of what gender lens is. Training helps address that gap. Policy documents are essential. So, for example, whatever we were doing out of our own, intent. What if we are not there in the organization tomorrow? I'm a professional CEO. I might leave. I might have to leave. But will the organization continue to do what it was, what we intended? The only way to do that is get the policy documents in place, and that's what this program has helped us. Lastly, as far as financial investors are concerned, no matter how hard we try, they'll always ask, what is a business case? And there are enough and more examples that you can share. So we have to talk about that. A lot of what we did started not from a business case, but we knew that it was right to do because in the long term, there will be a business case, and even if not, even if we are not able to directly link it, but we realized that the larger financial world, for us, even for example, to get access to more capital, we had to show a business case, and luckily there are quite a few business cases that we can talk about. So I think that those are the key learnings that we have from our program.
Yes, thank you so much, both of you. Those are really helpful insights. You are welcome to ask questions on that Mentimeter survey that we took earlier. There is an option to add your questions, and then there's also an option to vote on questions if you're interested in another question on there. I promised you insights from Latin America, from Asia, and from Africa, so I am going to briefly cover our engagement in South Africa, even though, unfortunately, they were unable to join us. They have very wisely shut down for the summer, so they are busy enjoying their families. We worked with Us Plus, which is a financial institution based out of Johannesburg, and they, similarly to these other two financial institutions, went through the gender ROI process. And the two key areas of opportunity that were identified through that process were around data and value chain integration. So they realized that they actually couldn't answer a lot of the questions in the diagnostic because they weren't collecting the necessary data to do that. So that seemed like a huge opportunity. And then around value chains, they realized that they could really be targeting women more explicitly, and one of the ways they were really keen to do that is through marketing. The second policy, or the second area that they were interested in pursuing that was revealed by the gender ROI was around inclusive workplace policies. So this particular institution has a really wonderful culture, I would say, around gender inclusion. They're a fairly small company. Their CEO is really passionate about supporting employees. They had this really sort of touching story about one of their employees being diagnosed with cancer, and the company really rallying around them, paying for all the treatment, supporting them, and taking the time off they needed to recover, and then ensuring they had a place to return once they were healthy again. And even though that was sort of a wonderful process and sort of a part of their culture, excuse me, they actually hadn't documented that anywhere. So they didn't have an employee handbook policy. That was just sort of a one-off case, and they would do things like that regularly. They're regularly taking care of their employees. And so one of our recommendations immediately after conducting the gender ROI was that if they had an employee policy that documented some of these sort of inclusive practices, that could ensure that they outlived certain staff and would continue along with the organization as it grew. So that's something they've actually already done. Sweef Capital kind of helped them in creating those policies. For the area around gender-specific marketing, we realized that we are an Asia-based organization, and while I have experience working in Africa, and it is near and dear to my heart, we didn't quite have the expertise necessary to really get those market insights from the South African context. So we are in the process of pairing them with an implementation partner who can do that. And so they will really dive into that more in 2025. So with that, I want to transition a little bit into discussion. Like I said, feel free to ask questions, especially of our two financial institution representatives. I think I'll kick us off. I'll take moderator's privilege to do that. And I'm curious, at least in the US context and potentially more broadly, we're starting to see the pendulum swing in the wrong direction, I would say, when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Meaning a lot of corporations have kind of done away with their commitments to gender equality and other forms of inclusion. So how are you able, either in this context or seeing that on the horizon, able to maintain that as a priority for leadership at your organization? Alexa, I'll start with you.
Hi, I think the question is very interesting. In Honduras, more than 50% of the population are women, in the bank as well. One of the things that is a challenge for us as a country due to our economic situation is migration. So a lot of the men leave, the women stay behind, and they have to be providers, take care of their children, ensure their children's education. So it's very much in the top of mind of the country as a whole. And also, one of the good things is that the regulator and the government has committed itself. We have our first women president, so I think that is also helping us push the agenda forward. And also, all of the private organizations have also formed gender committees, and they are participating not only locally but internationally to get the word out there. In the financial system, we may be a small economy, but there are 15 banks. 3 of us have programs already in place. 5 of the banks are already working on programs. So I do believe that although the international market is probably not heading the right way, we still are in the process and we still have a long way to go, but it's very top of mind for everyone.
Thank you. Abhishek, I know you are leadership in a lot of ways, but how are you maintaining this as a priority going forward?
Yeah, I mean, in the Indian context, I think it's still a little different. I mean, from a gender equity perspective, there is still a long distance to cover. And I think in general, the government, the public, they understand that. And there are some social constraints, intended, unintended, why the equity problem has taken so long to develop. So we are not at a stage where people are, anti-DEI yet, but the truth is I've got stinkers, and I was discussing yesterday, I've got stinker emails from random people saying that, why are you doing this? What do you mean by gender equity in hiring policies? Are you biased towards women? Are you leading to not hiring men who are more capable, and all sorts of things. So, but these are from external folk who've probably been negatively affected in some context. But in our context, and I think we have the privilege of being a much smaller organization. So we believe that it's not the negative type of DEI that we have. It is more the enabling type. So I think in the Indian context, we are still okay. But yeah, I mean, we'll see how things go.
Great. And related to one of your comments earlier, you mentioned building the business case for gender work. Because you're a little bit further along in your gender journey, I'm curious, what are some of the disparate outcomes you've seen when it comes to why it's important to invest in gender inclusion?
Yeah, I mean, see, there. Okay, so I think there are. First of all, the point that Alexa mentioned, in general, the observation has been that women repay loans better than men. Probably also because the few who get access to debt, it's not easy, even in the Indian context, it's not easy for women to get access to debt. In fact, most of the traditional financial institutions or most of the banks in India require women to bring in a male co-signer if you want to take a loan. If you're an entrepreneur and you want to take a loan from a bank, you need a male co-signer. So there are odd rules like that in the Indian banking system. And if women are able to finally get a loan, I'm guessing they are the cream of ambitious and performance-driven women. So they barely ever default. So that is one. The other thing is, at least in our data, if we look at our data, we have a lot of repeat clients. So once a client is onboarded, a lot of them have continued with us for the last 7, 8, 9, 10 years now. What we've seen is, in terms of the repeat, clients who keep coming back to us, the women-led companies, 60% of, in the total number of companies that have taken repeat loans from us, its majority is from women-led companies. So in a different way, it is a business case for us. The other issue which is also there is, I think it is also because women-led businesses don't get financing from other sources. They keep coming back to us. So I'm not sure whether it is we are doing something extraordinary, or whether it's probably because the market is not doing anything. Market is not doing the thing that they should be doing, is why we are getting these customers back. But it's a business case for us.
Great, thank you. That makes a lot of sense. I want to say thank you to both of you for sharing your gender ROI score. That is not a requirement, but we appreciate the transparency. I think it's really helpful for other organizations to see that it really is just a starting point. It's just a number. It's more about diagnosing, what your potential shortfalls are, where you're strong, and then working toward making progress. So even though we need to talk, I think. Yes, sorry.
I have one point to add. So I think the gender ROI tool is quite detailed, and she made it sound, Laura made it sound very easy, but it takes quite a bit of an effort. And I think that effort is helpful because it forces us to think about different aspects that we would have probably missed. As we were looking at those questions, new ideas came up. We could probably do another thing here, a little bit of a tweak there, then we'll score better there. So I think that process itself is I would say a process of identifying on your own selves what more could be done. So I think that is useful, more than the score.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the key learnings from this process was there was actually ways that we could streamline that process a little bit. So Abhishek, you got the somewhat more challenging version of the survey. But yes, it is a very comprehensive survey, and that's the idea behind it. And for context, Sweef Capital, I would like to think, eats, breathes, sleeps, gender, did not have a perfect score. We also have a lot of room to grow. So, it really is just about a starting point of, putting a stake in the ground and then measuring against it. So I'm curious, Alexa, looking 5, 10, 15 years ahead after all of this work that you are doing to invest in gender inclusion, what will success look like for you?
it better be a 6, not even a 5, first of all. No, I do believe that we want to be the trailblazer. We want to be the example for other institutions, for our government to continue to work. It's not something that is identified and it's done. You have to keep on working on it. Markets do change. Youth changes, AI comes in to the market, so I think it's a continuous, but it needs to become part of your DNA. And that for me, I think that would be my best case scenario, was that it becomes part of our DNA.
Great. So I'm curious, given the makeup of who we have in the room, what advice do you have for financial institutions that are looking to embark on this journey, or maybe other NGOs, support organizations, in terms of how they help financial institutions along this path?
I think when I was listening to Alexa's story, I realized that we have the privilege. We're kind of privileged in this whole process because we are a smaller organization, lesser number of people to convince. So if given a choice, I think it would always be easier, better to start sooner. And the reality is that the results take time. And for the practices to become, kind of embedded in everything that you do, so to the extent that it becomes natural, that takes time and practice. And you have to keep on repeating the same thing time and again, so that people in the organization don't question, rather they make that approach a way they do business, and they don't even realize that they are gender smart. And hence the results that they get over a period of time actually contributes to gender equity. But that doesn't happen too easily. So basically, my suggestion is start early. Smaller you are, it's much easier. But I mean, whenever you start, don't do something and give up in a year saying that results have not come. The results will take time.
For me, it started yesterday, if you haven't started, honestly. Push forward, push strong. You need internal champions. You need somebody, or better, a group of people to push the agenda forward. Do not shut up. Keep on making noise. I think that's one of the most important things. And you cannot do it alone. That is why we are all sitting here, and I think that is one of the best examples. That if we allow ourselves to just share our experiences, follow Equilo, do the surveys, talk to our clients, talk to our non-clients, hear the feedback, and take action upon it. I do believe that would keep you in the right direction with your feet on the ground.
Thank you. That's super helpful. I mentioned that Africa is near and dear to my heart. I lived in Senegal for a few years, and one of my favorite things about conferences there is that we would get a lot of what I would call comments. So, they would open it up for questions, and then you would have like a 5-minute comment with a question at the end that's like, don't you agree? And so while that might be frowned upon in some spaces, it is very welcome here. I know we're surrounded by a lot of expertise, so if you have questions, if you have comments or quaments, please feel free to sort of use your mic to ask, to let us know if you're doing anything in this space that we might benefit from as well, or the audience might benefit from.
Hello. Hi. Thank you so much to the organizers for bringing Alexa over. I'm actually from Honduras as well. Typically, we don't see Honduras represented in a positive way. So, of course, I'm very impressed and happy to hear about ProMujer. And I was just wondering, you included that there's training and technical assistance given to women, and I'm just curious what that includes. My work has been in international trade and helping also also women join the international market. And one of the things that is really important is to condition society on the value of women and women in business. So I'm just wondering if you include anything related to the value addition of women.
Hi, thank you, Catracha. Where we are now, our program includes partnerships with other institutions. We've partnered with, for example, Vital Voices. We've partnered with organizations in El Salvador of retired persons who provide help for these women entrepreneurs to move forward with their projects. We take them through a non-financial training through a couple of weeks in order for them to be at a certain level. We have external consultants also that allow for help with accounting, with tax support. But we are not doing it ourselves. We are partnering with other institutions, and it is a program, and they basically graduate from the program in order for us to move forward. And then I think ProMujer should talk about what happens after, because that's what we're doing now. I think that's really important.
Thank you, Alexa, and thank you very much for the question. Actually, it's very interesting and accurate. At ProMujer, I don't know how much you know ProMujer, but we are a social enterprise that for more than 34 years we have been working in the region boosting financial inclusion and mainly focusing on base of the pyramid women that are entrepreneurs by necessity and not only by opportunity. And we have a quite holistic model that I would like to, in a nutshell, describe, because it answers exactly to what you're asking. On the first hand, on one hand, ProMujer is originally a microfinance institution, and while providing microloans, we also provide skilling opportunities to women and access to finance, to health services, because we know that many women that usually don't get access to traditional banking don't get access neither to the health system. So when asking for a loan, but not only, they can get access to skilling opportunities regarding entrepreneurship and venturing, and taking some initial health services so that they can know that they are well enough to continue and moving forward with their own businesses. Regarding the educational branch, the idea is to help those women know better what to do and how to manage that initial loan. So we provide them with skilling opportunities related to budgeting, marketing, increasing sales, working in community, taking their own products and services, not only within their community, but communities, but also abroad. We do have a platform, a specific program called Emprende ProMujer, which is a program where women can start from scratch when starting a venture or a business, and learning step by step key tools to boost that business and to increase their revenues and the size of the company. We have 5 different modules, starting from initial steps to expanding your business. And a few years ago, we launched the Gender Knowledge Lab, which is the consultancy and technical assistance area at ProMujer, from where we provide this technical assistance that Banco Atlantia was naming, from where we give this technical assistance services to help any institution willing to incorporate this gender lens. And by or through those kind of knowledges that we share with them, we do exactly what you do, no? How you as a financial institution or an MSME or a corporate organization can do to boost all the opportunity that investing in women has for not only for the company, for the communities, for the country, but also for the whole region and the world. So that's mainly our approach. So happy to share any experience or initiative that we can have in our portfolio with any who might be interested in them. I don't know if there is any other question from the audience. Go ahead, please.
Juan Pedro Coelho from Alfamundi, so impact investor with a gender lens. I thought it was interesting and I was wondering From the point of view of La Vivienda, you explained more a project more with product related, and from Caspian you explain more in starting for the organization. Maybe to all of you, do you normally start looking into yourself first and then you start thinking of products? You start thinking of how can you increase your sales, and maybe you start with products, and ultimately that drives you to look into your own organization, or you need to look at everything at the same time?
I think for us, that we've been in the market for 111 years, I think we have to look at everything all at once. But and we're also a large bank. So I think that when the decision was made and management made the decision to include a gender lens to focus and to create the products that we have up to now, definitely you have to do a market read, a market study of where you are. But it does play a toll because you are competing with priorities within the organization and the institution. So that is one of our biggest challenges. Plus, when we create something, and I'm being very honest and very transparent, we think that we created the best thing in the world. So I still believe that our program is the best in the country up to now. Obviously, we need to talk, but I think you need to get started. You know what I mean? And if we partner with the right institutions, I think that we can move forward. So that, from my point of view, I think that that's what I can share with you.
Yeah, I mean, so we are a 20-year-old organization. Caspian has been an impact investor in investing equity for 20 years. The debt business that I look after is 11 years old. We were the first Indian domestic investors in microfinance, which is focused on women. The team was always, there was women in senior leadership. So for us, I mean, we didn't start off, but yes, to answer your question, I think it's probably both have to be done. And there are reasons for that. And these are things that we realized over time. But in a way, I would say, what we didn't do earlier was we did not set targets. We did not write it in the policies. And that is the change that we made. The start of all of this happened with us making a public commitment saying that 30% of the funding that we do will go towards women-led companies. So that's portfolio first. And when we started doing that, we realized that, we learned that if you have the investments team entirely constituted by men, you will most certainly face situations when women entrepreneurs may not be comfortable. I mean, I know there is a little bit of hidden bias in what I'm saying, but it's also possibly true. So we figured that part out, and we try to make sure that in fact, Caspian had, I think, the first Indian impact investor to have an woman fund manager. So we have a kind of a track record of that sort. So we try to make sure that the investments team has reasonable number of women. We kind of overdid that, and like I said, we had 60% women. we had 60% women in the team. But I think, yes, while we were all, as an organization, aligned towards it, I think the trigger was setting target on the portfolio and then internal, aspects. That's about it.
I can speak to that a little bit from the Sweef Capital side. You know, the origin of the gender ROI is that it was originally a tool for us to use in order to screen our pipeline companies, not screen, but to assess our pipeline companies. We realized that gender was a priority and that it needed to be a really holistic look at gender. There's a lot of emphasis on women in leadership, and that is super important, but there are a lot of other ways that companies can drive value for women. And so it was important to us to develop a tool that captured that. Similarly, it was important that we assessed ourselves alongside the tool, and it revealed some not surprising, but some aspects that we had to work on. So we also have our gender action plan, despite the fact that we are trying to help while improving our own processes at the same time. But we really saw the tool as an iterative process that we would use to sort of update and innovate along the way.
Yeah, maybe just to add a little bit also to that. So the gender ROI, there's also portfolio analytics functionality. So we do have customers that come, they're impact investors. They want to use the tool to just see where is their portfolio at, their portfolio companies at, and just have this overview. I would still say, as Bree also pointed out, walking the talk as the fund manager itself is important. So basically, we at Aquila, we would also encourage everyone who wants to use the portfolio analytics to do the gender ROI and see where their portfolio companies are at. It makes sense to also just look at yourself and see where you're standing, so you can walk the talk when you discuss this with your portfolio companies.
Other questions or comments? Do others have examples of how they're addressing their own sort of gender processes within their organizations? All right, so I have another question, and that is around how we measure the long-term impact of the work that we're doing. Obviously, I'm in charge of the MEL for this project, so we'll have some beautiful case studies and other publications that'll come out of this initiative. But I'm curious, how are your organizations sort of tracking all of the excellent work that you're doing around gender?
Okay, for us, I think that's one of the biggest focuses on right now, because we have certain data, but it's not perfected yet. So that's why this relationship was very important to us. And you have to continue measuring every year. If not, if you just forget about it and just end in 2025, it won't yield anything to the organization going forward.
Yeah, I mean, one of the from a measurement perspective, this might sound shallow, but I think it has a lot of value, is that one of the things that we did as we were going through the program was we got a central metrics dashboard. Of course, we were initially using that to track business numbers, so dispersal, portfolio, number of clients, portfolio quality, and so on. To that same dashboard, we've added a bottom layer which talks about, the proportion of companies that meet the 2X criteria, whatever the target that we've set. And it has 4 other rows that talks about percentage of women in the overall organization, percentage of women in senior leadership, percentage of women in the investments and relationship management team, portfolio risk management team. These are data points that are updated on a monthly basis alongside the financial numbers, financial and operating numbers. So for me, it becomes like that one place where I go, okay. So for example, today morning, I was disappointed to see that the total number of women in the team has just come down to 49%. We were 51 to 55% for a really long time. So I know that something has, so I'll go back and try and figure out a way that we can get that number back in the place. I guess this is how it helps to make sure for the long term, we are able to sustain this. If the numbers are on your face, you'll probably be on your toes to make sure that it continues to be that way. And I hope that that is how it continues.
Absolutely, thank you. All right, one last call for questions, and then I'll turn it over to Tomas to wrap us up. Yes.
Excuse me. I have a question both to ProMujer and to your experience as a fund. I was wondering, because you mentioned in terms of timeline that it's important to follow up with the project and the measurement and the evaluation year after year. However, I guess if you're a asset manager with a fund aiming at providing the technical assistance to the portfolio companies, it's not necessarily super sustainable to do it every year for every single company, especially because if you're working with debt or equity, at some point you exit the investment, right? So I was wondering if, in your experience, with this type of interaction between investor and investee, how does that usually work? And if there's usually a demand from the side of the investee, you know, they're presented, sort of introduced by the investor to your services, and do they show interest with following up and getting certification on their own year after year and really bettering their gender efforts year after year? Is that clear?
Yeah, it's a difficult thing to do, and I mean more so in our context because we are a lender. We have an active portfolio, I think, as of today, of about 120 companies. So by design, our level of engagement with the portfolio companies on these areas is not as deep as an equity investor. But, and we realized that upfront. So the way we've gone about it is that, like I was saying, as a part of the program, a toolkit has been created. It's fairly detailed across different types of areas that we offer to these companies and say that, you know, just use these to get some ideas and implement policies in your organization. Now, within our portfolio, there are companies at different stages of maturity in terms of application of gender lens. There are companies, for example, there are a few companies, for example, that have already taken some steps towards it, and there are companies that are completely oblivious to it. What we do is, for example, under this program, one of the things that we had done was we ran a workshop. So every year, what we do is we call in all our portfolio company CXOs to come together and share learnings and so on. And during that 1 or 1.5 days, what we try to do is introduce them to these concepts. So last year, we did this gender smart workshop on how these companies could incorporate gender smart practices in their operations. What we realized as a part of through that process was, like I said, some companies were like, you know, we want to, but there doesn't seem to be an opportunity. And there were some companies who had already implemented some measures, and they said that, look, your tools are great, we'll try to adopt them. There was another set that said that, you know, we want to do it, and we think that there is an opportunity, but we need closer guidance, we need closer diagnostics. What we've been able to achieve through this program was we kind of asked our portfolio companies to apply for one detailed diagnostic and guidance. So a bunch of them applied, and one company was selected for a slightly more detailed evaluation. But I wish we could have done it for our entire portfolio, but I think the cost, the effort, that's very difficult. So and to your point, whether we can do it every year, I think that depth will not be repeated, but we can do the workshop, for example, once a year, for sure. We can make the toolkit available, for sure. And the other tool that we use, which is an indirect tool, is when we ask for, reporting data. So we ask for financial data, of course, of the companies. But on a quarterly basis, we ask for social performance data also. And the gender-related data is a core part of that. So in an indirect way, we keep on embarrassing the companies by asking them those numbers, and they give those weaker numbers. I think a lot of these companies start thinking about it and starting to talk about things. I wish we were able to offer a product to these companies saying that if you have a gender ratio of X, we will give you an interest rate reduction of Y. But practically, there are some challenges to that on how it can be implemented. But as we progress, hopefully those kind of that kind of evolution will also happen.
And I can speak about our perspective as a fund as well. We do have an advantage in that we are a private equity investor and we're often on the boards of our companies. So it's a little bit easier to get data from them. But they also commit to it from the beginning. So they know that every quarter we are going to be asking them for data. And we also really prioritize investments in companies that are really committed to that impact piece. So I will say we have a little bit of an easier time, and we do it absolutely every year and sometimes more frequently. All right.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's what the answer is in their answers. But it depends on each fund or each FI with which we work and the nature of the fund and their pipeline. It depends. They can collect quarterly, every 6 months, or even yearly, or they can collect some indicators quarterly and other ones every 1 year. But it's the only way like to have that information in order like to see how they are moving forward. We don't usually recommend going through a complete and very long assessment, but like selecting specific KPIs to see how they're improving and progressing in that regard. But it's a conversation, it's quite tailored like with the nature of each fund and their portfolio companies. I have only 4 minutes left, so sorry, yes?
Sorry, last question before you head out, and you can fill this out later. We want to hear about what you're doing in this space, in this work. Are there any takeaways that we should report out as an outcome? And then, sorry, back to you, Tomas.
Yes. Okay. So I've been pointing out some highlights from this conversation, which I've counted them, and I have 12. So it's a lot. It's been a very interesting and enriching discussion. But if I had to select some of these, or at least share those with you, it's take into consideration the importance of assessing how you're doing in terms of gender, because as Caspian, as Banco Atlantia were saying, maybe you think that you're doing well, maybe you think that you have already implemented some policies, but when you go through comprehensive diagnostic, you get to see some things that you can be doing or can be done in the future. And it's key to, as gender lens practitioners, not only to stay in just one box checked, but moving forward towards the followings. No, it's not just okay, I have an institutional commitment, then I'm fine in terms of gender, but the idea is to continue moving forward and forward. Working in the integration of gender lens and gender perspective is not a goal. It's not something that we should run and just check the boxes, as we were saying, but it's a journey that we need to take it as it is, no? As a journey step by step, because there are lots of challenges and there are lots of solutions, and there is a lot of room for improvement and innovation in terms of how we incorporate the gender lenses. As well, I highlighted the importance of, once you get to know which are the things that you are doing well, but also which are the areas of improvement, set that action plan, that roadmap that could be accomplished through the years. No, it's not necessary, as I was saying before, to accomplish all those actions, but understand that you might be moving forward in stages. No, stage 1, building capacity within the teams. Stage 2, moving towards the following actions. Right away, those KPIs with which you are going to be monitoring progress, so that you can actually see that you are moving forward and communicate it, not only internally within your teams, because it's always important, if you're going to be asking your teams to change their minds, it's key to report them back, how we're doing in terms of those changes that were implemented. Match those KPIs with your actual, I mean, as I'm talking to FIs, with your current priorities and the demands of your teams. And for that, it's key to get to know the audiences with which you will be working these action plans. That can go from internal workforce and understanding their particularities, their needs, their demands. It's not the same. People are very diverse, so it's important to run internally questionnaires or collect data to understand with whom you are working, and then provide solutions or propose initiatives to move forward in terms of gender and diversity that are matching the realities of the team with which you work, but also when you go to territories, when you are building your pipeline or your portfolio, or when you are planning maybe to develop a new financial product or service, as here Alexa was saying, go and ask those companies, those SMEs, those women or not, like which are the needs, which are the particularities, which are the challenges that they are facing in their daily basis, and how you can provide solutions that match those actual needs. Mainly because it's the best way to match like the product development with an actual demand, no? Train your teams, like build these internal capacities and knowledge, no? It's important like to get to know the teams, what's gender, why it's important for us, and maybe for you, if you are experts or you already know something about gender, might be obvious, but not for everyone. So there are lots of data around that you can like use to build that capacity and that knowledge within your teams, because if your team is already trained in terms of gender, it would be way easier to move forward, as we were seeing from the case studies that we were sharing before. As Alexa was saying, like pick your champions. Once you know your teams and once you train them, like pick the champions that will help you to move forward with these initiatives within the organization. That's key, because that's something that will help you to make these changes like sustainable in time and also in resources, because it's a very practical way to keep like the whole teams engaged. As Abhishek was saying, like many institutions do have in practice a gender lens incorporated, because you might have 50 or 45% of your top management already diverse or equally balanced in terms of gender, but take the effort to put that in paper, no? To write down those policies so that you can like complement this internal practice with actually embedding this through these policies and protocols, that engagement, yes, that those policies within the company's DNA, no? Because maybe one day Abhishek will not be longer CEO of Caspian, and if he didn't put all those commitments in paper, maybe the fund commitment goes with him. And it's important like to create, through embedding in the DNA these policies, create long-standing impact. Collect data, as we were saying before, that's key to report internally, to report to the funders, to report to the investors, but also share that information with the ecosystem. We are still making the gender lens ecosystem robust. It's important like to showcase what you're doing. It's important like to present yourself, if willing to, but as a champion or as a potential champion or as an institution that at least started and is collecting data, is seeing some impact. There are numbers that need to be reported, because although we do have lots of reports going, that are being published through diverse institutions in Latin America, Europe, Africa, Asia, all around the world, it's key to see, okay, I'm a financial institution maybe in Guatemala, I would love to see what's happening in Honduras, because it's right across the border. We are even brothers in terms of culture. So if Banco Atlantia could do it, then maybe I will be able to do it as well. And that peer learning from communicating from our own experiences is key to create this more catalytic impact, which would be beneficial for all, of course. Not only in terms of nice to have or in terms of morals, but also in terms of business. And I think that might be all. A few minutes after the time, but thank you very much for your interest, for staying.
Yeah, thank you so much. It means a lot that you stayed and are late to cocktail hour. We honor your commitment. We appreciate it. If you do want to take the time to fill out that last question of the survey and let us know what you're doing, we'd love to hear it, and we will compile it as one of our outputs of this discussion. Thank you so much for being here.